Hello and welcome to shoulder muscular anatomy, and we're going to start with the front here. We're going to start with Pectoralis Major, and the Pectoralis Major is going to originate on the medial side of the clavicle, going down the sternum and down the sixth rib, and it's going to insert at the lateral edge of the bicipital groove here near the head of the humerus, and its actions are going to be shoulder adduction, so bringing it together, shoulder internal rotation, and shoulder flexion. So flexion would be this motion right here. Whoop, nice. And then we have Pectoralis Minor. It's going to be under, and it's going to originate at ribs 3, 4, and 5. And it's going to insert at the coracoid process right there on the top of the scapula. And the actions of Pectoralis Minor are going to be shoulder protraction and depression. So that's Pectoralis Minor. And we have Sternocleidomastoid. Sternocleidomastoid is going to originate on the clavicle and the sternum over here, and it's going to go all the way up to the mastoid process behind the ear. And sternocleidomastoid is basically responsible for all actions of the neck, except for except for neck extension. Neck extension, muscles of the back are responsible for neck extension. Then we have deltoid on the side here. We have in this triangle shape the deltoid muscle that originates all the way at the lateral edge of the clavicle, goes through the coracoid process and all the way back here at the spine of the scapula, and it's going to attach all of these 3 points down here at the deltoid tuberosity. And the action of deltoid is going to be, because technically there are 3 parts to deltoid. We have the anterior part, we have the middle part, and we have the posterior part. So the anterior part is going to be responsible for the shoulder flexion and internal rotation, whereas the posterior part of the deltoid is going to be responsible for shoulder extension and external rotation. And this middle part of the deltoid is going to be responsible for shoulder abduction. Okay, so that's deltoid. And then we have serratus anterior. So if you could raise one of your arms all the way up in the air, all the way. Thank you. So serratus anterior located along they're going to originate along the ribs 1 through 9, and they're going to insert all the way in the back. All the way in the back on the inferior. Let me find it. All the way in the back on the inferior angle. Oh, thank you. Inferior angle of the scapula, and the serratus anterior will do shoulder protraction. So if you want to protract your shoulders, yeah, shoulder protraction. And we have trapezius. So for this, I'm gonna have you stand up, and I'm also gonna stand up myself and turn around, and then shoosh. Oh well, we'll leave the hair there. But trapezius is really large muscle. It's gonna stem all the way from the occiput all the way down to I believe T12, all the way down to where our thoracic all the way down where our thoracic spine ends. And with trapezius, there's 3 parts to it. We have the upper trapezius that originates at occiput, goes down the middle of the spine, and attaches at basically the acromion and the spine of the scapula. And the upper trapezius is responsible for shoulder elevation. Then we have the middle traps, and middle traps are again, they originate down the middle of the spine and go out all the way to the acromion process, and the middle traps are responsible for shoulder retraction. So if you want to retract your shoulders back now, yeah, just like that. And then the lower traps originate down on T7 and go down all the way to T12, to the end of the thoracic spine. And lower traps are responsible for and they insert at the acromion process, just like the two others in the spine of the scapula. And the lower traps are responsible for shoulder depression. So if you want to depress your shoulders or just lower them down, yeah. Okay, so that's all of the trapezius. And then Latissimus Dorsi under trapezius. Here we have this big muscle, Latissimus Dorsi, and it will originate on T7. So it will actually start under the trapezius. Trapezius is going to be on top of it, T7, and go down all the way to L5. And it's going to stretch out all the way to, and it's going to insert at the front, on both sides at the lesser and greater tubercles of the humerus. And the action of Latissimus dorsi, because it's such a vast muscle, there's shoulder adduction. So we have bring it together of the shoulders. We have internal rotation, and we have extension. And then for the rhomboids major and minor, those will originate on C7 through T5, and that's for both of them. And because they both have the same action, and they will insert at there's a pair, so on each side, and they will insert to the medial borders of the scapulus, and their action is retraction of your shoulders, because it's pulling those scapulas back together. Next we have, let me shake my arm, next we have our sits muscles, or the rotator cuff muscles, and for those, we're gonna come back up here. Those, most of them are gonna be in the back. So sits stands for supraspinatus, infraspinatus, Teres Minor, and Subscapularis. So let's start with the first one. Supraspinatus, at the very top right here, the one that gets injured the most because it goes under the acromial process, it goes next to subacromial bursa. We have it originating on the supraspinatus fossa, and that's divided by the spine of the scapula. So above spine of the scapula, you can see, above spine of the scapula we have supraspinatus fossa. That's where the muscle originates, and it inserts at the greater tubercle all the way at the front here. The greater tubercle is more lateral, and then the lesser tubercle is more medial. It'll play a difference when we talk about Teres Minor and Major. And then its action of the supraspinatus is shoulder abduction, because it's at the top. So if you want to raise your hand up high, shoulder abduction, that's supraspinatus right there. And then infraspinatus is going to be right under that, so right under the spine of the scapula. We have this muscle right here called infraspinatus, and infraspinatus originates in the infraspinatus fossa and also attaches at, or inserts at, the greater tubercle, same as the supraspinatus, but because it's a bit lower, its action is going to be external / lateral rotation. So if you want to externally rotate your shoulders, just like that. And then under that we have Teres Minor, under the infra Teres Minor, and Teres Minor is gonna originate partly on the bottom of the infraspinatus fossa, and it's gonna insert again as the other two at the greater tubercle in the front. I'm sorry for the light. It creates kind of a silhouette, and its action are going to be same as the infraspinatus, going to be external lateral rotation, and so the final one is subscapularis, and subscapularis is actually located on the anterior side of the scapula, so under it, so I can't actually palpate it. But what subscapularis does is that unlike the other three, it attaches at the lesser tubercle and originates on the subscapular fossa, as you might have already guessed, and it does internal rotation because it's at the front. So those are sits, and all of those muscles have their own actions, but the most important thing is that they keep the joint together. They keep the shoulder in the socket. Okay, next we have, let's see here, next we have Teres Major. Teres Major, it's gonna be under Teres Minor, a bit lower, that's why it doesn't fall into the category of rotator cuff muscles. However, it will originate on the inferior angle, right? A very pronounced scapulas on the inferior angle of the scapula, and it will attach to, just like subscapularis, the lesser tubercle, and because of that, its actions are going to be internal rotation, just like subscapularis, and also shoulder adduction, so bringing the arms towards yourself. So that's Teres Major, and then we have triceps and biceps brachii, because we're at the back here. It starts with triceps, and triceps, the only thing you'll need to know is the long head of triceps, and it's going to be responsible for shoulder extension. And if you want to turn around, Annabelle, and show your strong biceps. So these biceps, the short head of the biceps is actually gonna originate on the coracoid process, where the scapula is, and it's gonna insert at the radial tuberosity down in the down in your elbow. and its action is going to be shoulder flexion, because it's the front, and we have the long head of the biceps. And the long head, it's the only thing that's going to be different is the origin. It's going to originate on the superior glenoid tubercle, which is going to be, we have our glenoid, it's going to be up here in the front, and it's going to stretch down to the same spot as the short head, so the radial tuberosity, and it's also going to have the same action, so shoulder flexion. And those are all the muscles of the, it took 2 minutes, of the shoulder.